So today is Monday, March 10th, and we are on the way to go pick up Stacy from school. Something that came up today that I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about was pride or ego. Is your ego getting in the way of your productivity? Because when we think about what it takes to move forward, so often we don't start because we're worried about what other people think. We're worried that we might fail. We're afraid to ask questions. And a lot of that has to do with the ego, right? We don't want someone to think that we're not capable or not good enough or see us stumble or see our flaws. But at the end of the day, we can't improve if we don't try. We can't improve if we don't start. We can't finish if we don't start. So sometimes it's more important, or I'd say most often it's more important to put your ego aside and focus on getting the task done instead of worrying about what other people think. Other people think about if you should be doing something a certain way, how your thumbnails look. If something looks good to you, sometimes that should be good enough. I mean, if we're talking about sales or advertising, you're going to have times in your life where someone else's opinion matters. But if at the end of it, you take the time to analyze the situation and you find that someone else's opinion is irrelevant, it's just a matter of you wanting to people please or you caring about someone else's perception of you, sometimes it's easier if we can let that go. I know that's something that I struggled with for a long time, and it's something that I still struggle with from time to time. We had a meeting earlier today at work, and I found myself wanting to prove myself to my coworkers that I had done an excellent job on this project. But I had to remind myself that there was no point. Sometimes you're just wasting your breath. We want to be able to pat ourselves on the back and keep moving forward. Or if we're working on a project, to be able to keep that to ourselves until we've achieved success, to not constantly feel the need to have validation from other people. It's important. You can validate yourself. You can have validation through your relationship with God. And the best part about having validation in your relationship with Christ is then I don't need to set the standard for my behavior based off of someone else's perception of me. The standard for my behavior becomes what Christ has set the standard at. If I'm supposed to love the Lord with all my heart and with all my mind, if I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself, if I'm supposed to be respectful and responsible, that has everything to do, the way that I live, right? The way that we live has everything to do with the way that God has called us to live and not what other people think, right? How other people think we should show up or behave, or if we're crazy or if we're sane, that's irrelevant. And there's a lot of peace in that too. I love you guys so much. I hope that makes sense too. Like if someone isn't treating you right, your behavior is not determined. Your response to that behavior is not determined by, wanting to shift someone else's perspective of you, for them to think, well, I have to behave this way because I don't want them to think that I'm a doormat, or I have to behave this way to show them, a thing or two or whatever. No. How has God called us to be? That's the standard. John chapter 15 verse 16 says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to bear fruit. And whatever you ask in my name, I will give you." So not to get it twisted, that we didn't, seek out on our own to become righteous or holy, but that God chose us first, that Christ loved us first and gave us the opportunity to live life better, right? To say there's a better way to live, a holy way to live, a way that will allow you to have more peace and fulfillment and joy that can alleviate you of your depression and your anger, of soul ties that you have with other people. To free you from the bondage of sin and generational curses. That there's an opportunity, there's another option. We don't have to be trapped in the same cycles of sin and stress and revenge. When we go throughout our day, we want to think about, they used to have these bracelets back in the day that would say, what would Jesus do? But it sounds cliche, but exactly that. Not what would my flesh do, not how do I want to prove myself to someone. Either you're responding the right way to the wrong behavior is going to remove the people that shouldn't be in your life from your life, or it's going to call them up to a higher standard, to encourage them to elevate their behavior as well. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was a blessing to someone